Whew. Boys and girls, it's a Friday night. It's stirring the pot, and I don't know what I got myself into. If you can see who I got, it is it is what it is, and we're gonna roll with the punches. So this is stirring the pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Mike Drinkwater slash Dishwater. What's up, baby?
Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot.
Well, thank you very much for hanging out with us, the fans. This has been fantastic. This has been Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Mike Drinkwater slash Dishwater. Thank you so much, my man. I really appreciate your time.
Hey.
Well, I tried to ditch him and it didn't work. He called me right back. So this is Stirring the Pot with Don with Don Kincaid and my very special guest on a fine Friday evening, Mike Drinkwater slash Dishwater. What's up, my man? Welcome back. What's up, my man?
How dare you? How dare you do what you just did to me? You said I hung up and you hung up right on me. How fucking dare you do that bullshit with me? You freaking piece of garbage. I'm going to come find you and I'm going to take that title that's right behind you and it's going to be mine.
That escalated very quickly, boys and girls, using colorful language. Look at that. We got him right off the top. Being all, woo, Drinkwater's on fire. What are you swigging over there, my friend?
I'm swigging one of my favorite beers, Steel Rail. It's a really good IPA beer. It's from the Berkshire Brewing Company, and they sell it right in by the package store right near my house. And it's a really good price. It's like $9 for a 6-pack. So, I figured down a beer while I have this so-called one-on-one interview with
you. Well, we started off with a bang. That was a blast. So. You said you went and purchased this at one of your local package stores. They must card you because, I mean, Mr. Kulik, he calls you like chin hair for a reason. So they must card you when you walk in this place, no?
No, I'm very well known because that's where my that was my hot spot for lotto tickets when I went there. So they know me very well.
Oh, the lotto tickets. We're definitely going to get into the scratch and sniff in a little bit. That's a definite, that's a fact. So boys and girls, usually what happens on our show, this isn't my show. This is our show. Usually on our show, we get the fine, talented men and women that we get to have the honor and privilege of seeing in the ring. We pay our money. We have a good time. We escape from reality. But here tonight, we have he's a different animal. And we're going to get into a couple different things tonight. My friend, Mike Drinkwater, we haven't known each other very long, but he is a wrestling fan of the local indie scene, plus, the WWE and whatnot. But that's how I met Mr. Drinkwater on the local scene. So he's an indie fan. He knows a lot of names and all of the and stuff. He's been going for a while, way more than I have around here, that's for sure. So I thought it'd be fun to get a fan on. It's been this will be the first time outside of the fan roundtable. Why I agreed to this one specifically, I'm not sure. So with all of that said, sir, welcome to our show, Stirring the Pot. It's a privilege having you. I appreciate your time coming on, dealing with my silliness, because we all know I'm just a ridiculous. I'm like Ricochet Rabbit. I'm all over the place. You've seen it firsthand at the shows. So yep. I kind of want to start right there, how we first met each other, because that's a fine story indeed. So I'm going to start it, and what I'd like for you to do is finish it. So I've seen Mr. Drinkwater at shows that I was starting to attend, because I started in 2016, but I know Mr. Drinkwater's been doing it for much longer. So he was already at the shows as a fan. So I started seeing his face. I started bringing my dad to the shows. He started recognizing him, and we see the same faces, if you will, Mr. Drinkwater. Uh, the fan base. They're the recurring fans. Plus, you see the new ones, so you get to see some of the familiar faces, event after event. And Mr. Drinkwater happened to be one of them. Well, Battlefront Pro Wrestling came up. They started back in 2018 in February. It was a blizzard like none other. And I drove up there on a whim because another show got canceled. That's how I discovered Battlefront in a blizzard. Probably like an hour away, but it took me an hour and a half because it was like 10 inches and snowing like an MFer out there. So some time has gone by. Mr. Drinkwater and myself have never met once. And now I've been blabbing for a while. Take us to said maybe point where we met, sir, if you could, please.
Well, it was the night of the infamous barbed wire match between Len Oddity and Dirtbag Dan. And actually my very first Battlefront Pro Wrestling show ever. I'd come in not knowing what a Dirtbag Dan was. I thought that was some kind of like Morpheus Blob or something. I don't know. I'm like, who the heck is Dirtbag Dan? What is he? Trying to come out. He's a really good hardcore wrestler. So you came up to me, and I think I came up to you first and said, it's about time we met. And I said, I was happy to meet you. And we started talking, and Brother Bob in his smelly, skunky hat decided to roll up and interrupt our conversation. But that's okay. I could still smell his skunk hat from here right now. But yeah, so we met and we started talking, and then you did a little, maybe minute or so with me on stirring the pot, a minute thing. You came up with the nickname Drinkwater, and you had the whole entire Woo crew started chanting it. Then I yelled at you because the lights started going off, and I said, "Look what you did! You had the lights go out," and from there.
Whenever the crowd took over with drink water, I damn near fell laughing. That was such a memorable meeting somebody for the first time, and B, they just it just kind of el natural, all kind of worked like that. Nothing, and I do mean nothing, was ever planned or anything like that because I never even met you. I was walking towards the corner. Like you said, we started striking up convo, and I did the old Dr. Kincaid Center Ring Kincaid file, and it just El Natural took over right on camera. And man, Mr. Drinkwater, that is one time I will never forget in wrestling forever in my life, because there's these certain moments that we always take with us from each wrestling event, if you will. Maybe not every single one of them, but for the most part, we do take a little piece of something home with us. That, besides the main event being Oddity v. Dirtbag, that was off the freaking charts. I can't even believe that's the first kind of really. That was a pretty damn crazy match, but hardcore style. That was a built-up match. For me personally, I've seen hardcore matches live, but that was pretty cool live. I gotta say, it was different because they wrapped it the ring in barbed wire.
And I've always been into that type of those matches too. So, like,
yeah,
Necro Butcher, one of my favorite all-time hardcore wrestlers. I was watching his set just recently, and the stuff he does is crazy. And I've always loved the bloodbaths, and that's just my type of wrestling.
So let's stay right there. Battlefront, Dirtbag Dan versus Len Oddity. You are of course familiar with Len Oddity as a performer within the New England scene, correct?
Correct. For about 10 years I've known him.
Wow. Okay. So you've been in the indie scene. Give us a little insight of Drinkwater, if you could. When did you start doing the indie stuff?
Well, kind of like I started a little bit when I was in high school back in like 2005, 2006. I would like attend like the EWA shows here in Agawam because I live in Agawam, and it's maybe like a 5-minute drive for me and everything. So I started going there, and watching them. Uh, I I was really good friends with Joey Rockstar. I don't know if you know who that is,
I'm not
but
familiar.
yeah, he moved down to Florida and I think he retired, but yeah, I started talking to him and you know we became really good friends because we went to school and stuff, and I went to like the shows like New Age Old Time Wrestling, and then it transformed to PvP.
Hmm.
I went there I've been there for since day one, and then Blitzkrieg I went to a couple times, but my mainstay now is obviously Battlefront, and I've been to other promotions, here and there. I've been to a bunch of Chikara shows, which I absolutely love Chikara. I recommend anybody who's a wrestling fan to go.
So did you go to Pennsylvania for their live shows, or was it something that came to Connecticut?
There were some that came to Connecticut. It was the place called Whirly Ball. They no, was it Whirly Ball? It was like either Whirly Ball or there's a place in
Oh, that's
Windsor.
perfect. Oh, that's perfect. We can't see your. Oh,
Now you can see it.
never mind.
No, you
Go
can't see
ahead.
my face like you can't see El Jabroni.
Hey, let's not go there. I was gonna wear a beautiful El Jabroni shirt, but I didn't want to start no ruckus. Uh, so Chikara.
Yeah. So I mean, they went to a couple places that I've been to in Connecticut, and they have really, like I said, they put on a fantastic show, and that's where I met Kimberly and like Chuck
Okay.
Taylor and all those guys. So met them, and then there was one promotion that I used to go to. It was in Chicopee. They used to be in like the Boys and Girls Club. It was called RPW. I don't know if you're.
I'm not, but I have heard of the history, somewhat of the history.
It was the late great Eric Newton, who unfortunately he passed away a few years ago, but he put on a fantastic show. And there's one show that I'll never forget. He had Mr. Anderson there, or Mr. Kennedy, whatever he calls
Hmm.
himself. He was there, and I had my Mr. Kennedy shirt on from when he was in WWE, and he was going by Mr. Anderson. So after his match, he had won, and he's like walking around, doing his thing, makes eye contact with me, looks down at my shirt. He looks at me, says, "Whoa, whoa, what are you trying to get me sued here or something?" Because he doesn't go under the Mr. Kennedy. And I'm like, no, I'm just wearing the shirt. He's like, and then he says to me, he says, "Whoa, when did we have heat?" He says, he thought all of a sudden me and him had heat because he got mad at me for wearing the shirt. And I'm like, there's no heat. And then afterwards, he came up to me, he says, here's a free 8x10 signed by me. So So I was like, oh, okay, cool. So, but that was a fun little moment for me for that, and I got to meet a lot of like Eric Newton. He let me announce a couple matches like pre-show, and then the video that you saw of me refereeing that was for RPW in a tag match with yeah, it was like Evil Nick was in the tag match, and I think that's really all I can remember. So, but yeah.
So you're an indie fan. You start going to these RPW shows. You get a chance to get in ring, do a little something something on the microphone. But not only that, you get to referee a match. So you've refereed one match. Is that what you're saying?
I've had that, and then which I'm trying to find the video of the other match of me refereeing Dan DeMan versus Lucas Sharp. That's the one that you always bust me on about getting kicked in the face with, and for some reason I cannot find anything associated. It was that Joey Rockstar that was the one that had the thing, and I tried to find stuff, and I don't know if he deleted it or what, but I want to find it and see if I can share it on the roundtable. For some reason, it's gone.
Well, hopefully there's more people watching this besides Jim Kulik, Dan the Man, Lucas Sharp. If you're out there and you get wind of this, please, if you have this footage, we the fans, especially the roundtable specifically, but we the fans in general, we need to see Mr. Drinkwater get a super kick to the face, because that's been a fantastic running story throughout our roundtable. And without the footage, I mean, it's funny as F, but if we had the footage, oh my God, that would be just absolutely amazing. So, Mr. Dan the Man or Mr. Lucas Sharp, if you could, Let's see that beautiful bean footage because we really want to see that.
Maybe I'll recreate it with Dan the Man when I see him at a Battlefront. Maybe I'll have him kick me in the face.
Wow. I'll put in a request on top of that. Yeah. I'll second that request. Please, Dan the Man, let's set that up. So take us through, how do you get to be a referee? Did you do a little training, or what was going on? How did you get to be a referee?
Well, I had, like, I know backyard wrestling is not really per se a legitimate thing, but I kind of was doing like some backyard wrestling refereeing and stuff. I was watching a lot of like tapes like Earl Hebner, Nick Patrick, Mike Kyoto. I was watching them. Like, there are times where I would focus mainly on the referees and like watch how they work and stuff. And I said, oh, well, maybe I can give this a try and see what happens. So I got in contact with Eric Newton. He says, oh, talk to Chris Gallerini or Chris Camaro. Maybe he can hook you up for a match or something. I said, okay, cool. So he says, okay, you can have one. I'll let you referee a match, see how you do, and we'll go from there. I'm like, okay. Me being me, I was extremely nervous that night. But on the card, Coco Beware, John Cena Sr., Manu from WWE, and Joey Eastman. Joey Eastman came up, gave me some advice. I think it was there was another referee named James. I think his name was like James J. Lee or something like that. He gave me some advice on like what to do. And then the wrestlers I was working with, they said, okay, you know, this is what we're gonna do. Watch out for these spots and stuff. And I was like, okay. So I did that, and that's how I ended up becoming a referee for that, and then doing the stuff for Rhode Island.
Now, did you go under the name Ref Drinkwater? What was your name as a referee?
I went from my high school nickname, which was Deeds. So I said, let's go with Ref Deeds. I think that kind of sounds cool. So I said, and GK Durant, who was the ring announcer for RPW, says to me, he says, oh, I'm going to introduce you as Mikey Deeds. I'm like, okay. I'm like, people know me as Mikey. People know me as Deeds. That's fine with me. So he introduced me as that. So, and I went with it.
Referee Mikey Deeds.
Yeah.
Just to reiterate what we were speaking on earlier, we really need to see this footage of one Drinkwater getting a super kick to the face. Just putting that out there for the second time. Just want to say that.
Well, we'll look at Dan the Man to recreate that maybe if you want, if he's able to, and you can record it.
I would love that. That would fill my heart with joy, sir. I would love to be part of that. Yes. And I know the roundtable would really appreciate it. And I think friend Eric would actually fall over dying laughing if we could get that. If we could get that done. So I kind of want to talk about the roundtable a little bit, because what I was doing was before this whole King COVID thing. Before this whole thing was going on, I was going to actually meeting some of the fine talent that we see, the familiar faces that we see in the ring. I was actually being invited, some of them to their homes and their escape places, if you will. But I was invited to like parks and stuff because they didn't trust me enough. They just didn't want me to know their fucking address. And I get it. It is what it is. It is what it is. But that's what I was doing, was face-to-face sit-downs. But now that the whole vid thing has been rolling around, I've been doing a lot of sit-down Skypes, which is, my reach has been much further because I don't have to drive everywhere. And you know, people are more open to doing it this way than they are like in person anyways. But with that said, I was doing all of the talent, but then I'm like, man, I miss the friends that we've made at the shows. Why don't I see if a few of them want to hang out and do this thing called the Fan Roundtable? So a few of you guys and girls were interested. We've been having some fun. And I'll tell you, there's been some very memorable moments on these fan roundtables. I bring in a surprise guest about 15 minutes deep, and I never tell anybody on the roundtable who's coming in because it's wrestling, and we like surprises as wrestling fans. So I thought that was a cool little element that we could add to it. Some fan, Mr. Drinkwater, we've had some fantastic guests.
Yeah.
I mean, holy crap. Um, but something I want to talk about specifically, very recently, very recently, as of this past Saturday, the future slash the roundtable executive producer came up with an idea of the first ever fan roundtable awards. And man, did we have an effing good time on that show. And let me tell you something. That was about an hour 7, hour 11 minutes. I forget exactly. I am telling you, that was fun AF, my friends.
Oh yeah. I got a new nickname, Sour Puss McGee.
Oh my God!
Did you just do your El Jabonia impression? Where you went down on the screen and came back?
You know, you keep throwing them digs out. That's okay. I'm brushing them off tonight. I'm keeping calm. I'm keeping calm and interviewing. That's my motto tonight. Keep calm and interview. So we've been having some fun on the fan roundtable over the course of when it started. And as I've said, we've had some fine friends come on. We've had some fine talent come on and have a lot of fun with us. But I want to say that this past Saturday was probably the most fun roundtable I think we've had to date, sir. I don't know if we can top that because holy cow. Now, I want to touch upon something with our friends that are watching this right now. Myself and Mr. Drinkwater, we are co-owners of one of the awards that was passed out throughout the evening. And it was for best. Now, what the executive producer does is he puts up these little snapshots of stuff that he creates. And one of them happened to be Drinkwater's head plastered on, who was your face on?
I think Kurt Angle. I want to say it was Kurt Angle.
And then mine was on Shawn Michaels giving my man a super kick. And that won the whole shebang out of all the picks. That was amazing. And we're co-owners of an award. I know I've been kind of yakking on about this, but Mr. Drinkwater, I want you to finish the story because I'm not getting that award sent to me. That award is actually getting sent to Mr. Drinkwater. Look at his face. It's turning beet red. He's about to burst with laughter. Why don't you, my friend, and this is the reason why I'm letting you take over, because I think it's going to be fun. Why don't you finish the story, my friend?
It's because of a certain award. I think this is where you want me to go to.
Yes.
That you received courtesy of, I think it was six or seven votes from us.
It was a landslide. Six votes.
And the award was for best host of the roundtable.
Yes, thank you so much.
I'm gonna say that I did vote for you. I was one of the 6.
Thank you.
But the kicker of this, the trophy is not an ordinary trophy.
No.
I don't know if I really want to say it, but the trophy is a penis.
You're a big boy. Don't mix words. You're a big.
But yet, I don't know. Is it because we think you're a dick?
I don't know.
But for some reason, out of the blue, you're getting a trophy in the shape of a dick. A penis. I mean, of all sorts.
It's a prestigious award. B, it's being sent from Italy in a crate with fragile stamped on the side of it, and I can't wait for it to be received. I cannot wait because we are going to do something with that fine, prestigious award, Drinkwater, and I'm following through. My family's not happy, but I'm following through with something that I said on that fan roundtable when I did my acceptance speech. we at DK Wasteland, we at the DK Wasteland are going to recreate the Christmas Story lamp scene where he displays it in his beautiful bay window. Except I don't have a bay window. I got two windows. It'll work just fine. I'm going to spotlight. I'm going to Christmas tree lights. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I'll figure it out. But I'm going to recreate that with my beautiful golden penis. And it's going to be amazing.
And I thought I was bad enough where I was going to take my two trophies, the corn and the co one, and have my medal. I was going to pull an Owen Hart and say, like he did when he was the Slammy Award winner. He was a 2-time Slammy Award winner. And I was going to recreate that and say, look, I did it. I got 2. I was going to carry him around all the time and have them. And
hey, you just leaked that information, but please, if you want to still do that, my friend, when those prestigious awards are sent in the mail, please recreate that all you want. Oh, yes, perfect. That's absolutely son of a bitch. Please feel free. If you're going to the store to grab some bread and milk, take them with you. Do something in the grocery store with them. That would be fantastic. I would love to see Drinkwater doing a video with his prestigious awards, recreating some Owen Hart stuff. That would be amazing.
Oh, I'm planning on doing it at work and wherever I go. I'm planning on doing this.
Yes, Drinkwater. Yes.
You can guarantee you will see me recreating Owen Hart. And like you said on the round table, we got a gold medal without breaking our freaking necks.
Mm-hmm. We did. We received these beautiful and let me and I know I touched upon it on the round table to the future and the camera lady. You two are amazing. Those awards, all the awards were all those two. We would have never gotten such beautiful, prestigious awards if it weren't for both of those two fine people. And I'm telling you, man, those two are awesome.
Exactly.
But yeah, we won that beautiful medal, and we didn't have to break our freaking neck, man. I am so glad about that. Yes.
Even though I have a neck like Kurt Angle, but it's kind of shortened.
Oh man, that was really a great time. I want to touch upon something, staying on the fan roundtable topic. And I know one of the categories was such, but I just kind of want to get your perspective. Now we've had some fine talent on the roundtable, from Blue Shoes, Mr. Frost, King Leon, El Pepe. I mean, the list goes on and on. Ref Bill has come on there. And I could keep going on. But my point being is, out of everybody that we've had on that show as a special guest, does anybody stick out in Mr. Drinkwater's mind that's memorable from a fan roundtable?
There's 3. I'm going to say 3. One, King Leon, was fantastic. I really liked him on the roundtable. A certain person I called a dick on a round table, which that was part of one of the things to vote for. Me calling one Mr. Ryan Frost a dick because nobody else wanted to. So I said, "All right, I'm not afraid. I'm going to call you a dick," and I called it right to him. So, and I think he kind of appreciated it. I think he was kind of funny about it, So, but all in all, Ryan Frost is a pretty awesome guy, and I really enjoyed him on the round table. But my number one favorite, the guy who won the award for best guest host, won Mr. El Pepe, because me and him, I think from the moment he came on to the end of the roundtable, me and him just gelled, and I think me and him got along really well. And even though I'm still waiting for the battle blouse, which he said he was going to give me, I'm still waiting on it, but I don't think I'll ever get that. But still, I'm waiting on it. If he happens to be seeing this, if he's anywhere and he sees this, I want my battle blouse. So if you can get in contact with me or something, it'd be nice.
Well, I have to agree with you there. Again, so much fine talent, and so many familiar faces that have come on, and we've met some new faces that not all of you, and that's the point of it, is introducing new talent to the fans. That's the whole point. Getting their faces out there, getting their brand out there. It's never about our stupid silliness and our mush. That's why I bring on the special guest so we can push said talent, said promotion, if you will. Uh, but I do have to agree with you. El Pepe, never met the guy, Mike. Never once did I ever meet the guy. Never seen him wrestle. Never knew a damn thing about him. I invited him because of one ref, Kevin Quinn, was on my show, and we had a little powwow going on the face page. There was a bunch of people with some comments, and Mr. El Pepe kind of was starting some madness on that post, on that thread, if you will. So I'm looking at this guy's comments and some of the responses and the way he's mixing with some of these people, and I thought he would be absolutely perfect, A, for a Stirring the Pot interview, and B, to come on our show, the Fan Roundtable, and be a special guest. And I will never regret having that guy on both because, wow, what a character, man. And he took everything in stride and he rolled with the punches and he gave us as much heat as we gave him. And it was so much fun.
Except for me.
So I do have to agree with you on that. Not that we didn't have fun or anything like that with the other guests, but man, El Pepe just really, his game, man, was just something else.
There's like he's got that something
Mm-hmm.
that, you don't see in every wrestler, but it's just, he seemed like he could be a good talker and he can like just go with the, like you said, go with the flow of things and
yes,
everything.
absolutely.
It's just, that's why I was like, wow, this guy's a great heel. And, I love the heels. I mean, you know how I am on the round table. I'm the round table heel guy. So, but he was phenomenal. And that's why I voted for him for best appearance, like special guest. And I'm glad he won. And I wish he was still in wrestling. Who knows? Maybe he may come back.
You never know. It's wrestling.
You might have scared him off because of the look on your face, but who knows?
I will tell you one thing with Mr. El Pepe. When I interviewed him and this whole Kumite thing started and it flowed over and it just kind of bled right into the Fan Roundtable, that was absolute fantastic. I don't know. I don't even want to use the word material. Whatever it was absolutely fantastic. Whenever that thing started rolling, man, holy cow!
What him and the Future got into, and it was just, I thought that was fantastic. Like,
yeah,
the Future going back and forth, and I think he went back and forth with Kulik a little bit too.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's for sure. And with one Jake Olay, if you will.
We don't care about Jake Outlet.
Dude, no, check this shit out. No, there's a Jake Olet out there. He's a friend of the table, and when El Pepe started calling him Jake Olay, I thought it was one of the funniest effing things I've heard in a while because it just flowed, my friend. Did it not? But recently, Mr. The Future, he started calling him Jake Outlet because I think he legit thought it was Jake Outlet, not Jake Olay. And if he wasn't, that is comedic fucking genius because he was straight as an arrow while doing it. I don't know how.
It was pretty epic. I like that. I kind of crack out of
that. So I don't think we'll ever know if he really did not know his name was Olet or Outlet. I'm really curious, but I still don't want to know because I want to think it was comedic genius from our executive roundtable producer.
I'll second that. I think it was the comedic. Yeah, I agree on that.
I kind of want to speak on Donovan, if I may, still staying on that roundtable topic, because I never met the kid, but I've seen him at the PvP shows. He was doing post-event interviews real quick, like maybe 5-10 minutes with like Main State Posse, Nico Silva, And there's some names that he started with, and it bled over. He was starting to do them at WMW, which was their sister promotion, if you will. And the likes of Trayvon, he came on, uh, and then there was others. And Donovan, at a WMW or a PvP, I can't remember, but I went up to him and introduced myself because I've seen him doing his thing, seen some of his interviews on his YouTube channel. I always forget the name. He'll be mad at me. Bootio Boys Wrestling Fan Page.
Yeah.
Look that up on the tube. So I went and introduced myself, and I am so glad I did because we struck up a great relationship. And having him on the round table has been an absolute blessing for all of us, I think. And he's only 16 years old, but if he wasn't there, we would have a missing piece to our puzzle. Could you kind of concur on that, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, he for someone his age to be doing what he's doing with all these wrestlers and stuff, it's just phenomenal. Like some of the names he's even like during this whole pandemic, or as you call it, the COVID.
Yes. Yes.
So there you go. There's a plug for you. Like some of the people he's gone on Skype with are phenomenal. Like Leo Rush, I would have never expected him to be interviewing a former WWE wrestler, let alone former WWE Cruiserweight champion. It just blows my mind how we can get like these top stars from all these like indie places and stuff on his show, and it's just for him, it's just phenomenal. And I can't tell you how proud I am to see somebody of his age to be going out there, making time to interview these wrestlers and having like thorough 45-minute, an hour interviews with them and just asking them like these like detailed questions and stuff. I mean, you got some competition out there, Kincaid. But I have to say, you and him are like the top right now of what I'm seeing, and it's just he's just so amazing with how he asks the question, and he just spits them out. It's like he doesn't pause or anything. It's like boom, 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 and I'm like, wow. I'm like, I watched Leo Russia interview 3 times. That's how good I thought it was, and I'm just glad he's on the roundtable, and I gotta say, he is probably one of the smartest and coolest 16-year-old kids I know in the wrestling. I mean, he knows his stuff. I mean, we all do, but for someone his age, he's got a lot of good, knowledge of like the WWE and stuff. But for me, like me and you probably go way back to like AWA, NWA, like the Bruno Sammartino days. But for him to know his stuff, the kid's awesome, and I'll say that right here, right now. The kid is freaking phenomenal.
And I think his mom, who we call Camera Lady, being part of the tag team with him, I think is absolutely amazing, and it's really cool to see both of them doing this thing together at wrestling. She says she's been replaced by a tripod, but you know what? She goes to all the shows with them and stuff. She brings them to the shows, and sometimes the mask is there along with and such. I just think it's really cool that they're having fun together. And somebody's knocking at my door. Hold on, real quick. Hello? Grandma's sleeping. You need to be quiet.
Uh-oh.
All right. Let me take off the earpiece. We might have to do the interview the rest of the way without the earpiece. Hold on. Put that on the dresser here. Can you hear me, Drinkwater?
I can hear you.
All right, we're good. All right, let me have the case. Come over here, take a sip. Are you leaving? Okay. Real quick, like take a sip. Turn around.
Big Jacob P.
Big Jacob P. Do you know who that is, Big Jacob P?
Drinkwater / Drinkwater. I don't remember the last one, but
the last one is go ahead and give him your last one. He knows Drinkwater and Dishwater. What's the newest one?
The ref Mikey Deeds one?
No, Kulik gave it to you on the fan roundtable.
Oh, it was like Grouchy Grouchy Pants or something like that. He used Grouchy Pants, and then he did oh my god, what was it? I forgot.
It was Mr. Grouchy Pants, wasn't it, or something like that?
Sassy, something sassy.
And I think you even said it at the top of the show too. I believe.
I know.
I think it was Mr. Grouchy Face or Grouchy Pants or something like that. Something like that. But that's been added. We're gonna figure it out, and then we'll get it.
We'll remember. Right. I mean, I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning, so it's kind of hard for me to remember stuff right now.
So that was that was interesting on how the drink water and dishwater just flowed out of my man, Big Jacob P. Huh?
That is pretty awesome.
All right, so you're going to be going. Is that what's going on?
Yep.
You're leaving?
Yep.
Well, Big Jacob P, he stayed over a couple nights. He's taken off with his fam. So we're doing a quick, a cameo. We're doing a cameo with Big Jacob P right now during the interview. Do you have any questions before you get going to Mr. Drinkwater?
How about
No, that's not the question. No. You have to ask him something like a regular solid question. You don't have any questions for Mr. Drinkwater?
do you have a mirror in your bedroom?
Whoa.
I do not.
Oh, thank goodness. That was very random though. Very, very random, I gotta say.
I got another one.
Oh, he's got two. Go ahead.
Do you have a regular camera, like a digital camera with like that little screen?
I do, but it's kind of in dispose right now. It's kind of not working right now, I should say. So I'm in the middle of trying to fix it up and get it to where I can use it.
Well, those were some fine questions, Big Jacob P.
I got another one.
Three.
I thought you were leaving.
Just one more.
Oh, okay. One more question from Big Jacob P.
Do you have 5 jars?
5 jars. Probably in my room in my cabinets.
Glass jars.
In a room, in a cabinet.
Probably in my kitchen and stuff. So I probably have them in my kitchen.
Well, those were 3 very random questions. Oh, well, you got to go. Do you see what that message says right there, Big Jacob P?
Yep.
Well, you better go. This was Big Jacob P. Thanks for hanging out on STP. I love you.
Love you too.
Mm-hmm. See you later.
You too.
It's always good to see a Big Jacob P appearance.
Yeah.
Bye. Well, that was Big Jacob P making an appearance. Those questions were so damn random.
He did. I remember him asking the random questions. And I think it was like a round table or 2 ago, somewhere like that. The randomness of him.
He only had 2 go-tos. Do you own a laptop and what's your favorite color? But those 2 questions right there, way out of left field, man.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Well, that was interesting.
It definitely was.
So
it was good to see.
We've been down for a while with wrestling and life in general. Wrestling tried. I mean, there's still some stuff running actively right now on the indie scene. But before this uptick that just recently happened, it was kind of getting a little active out there. Not everybody was running,
right,
but there was enough companies out there to say it was getting pretty busy out there. Workers were getting some work, if you will. The uptick happened. Now it's starting to go back down. Companies aren't doing anything, basically. There are some that are doing some shows. Some are doing studio tapings, if you will, and calling them different scenarios. NEW is one of them that just started doing it, and others. What has Drinkwater been doing to keep himself in wrestling? Are you watching indie stuff? Are you watching the bigger platform stuff? Anything specific? Why don't you give us what you've got going on? Maybe there's some stuff that we've never even heard of, promotion-wise or wrestlers or whatever. What have you been watching? Any specific talent that's been sticking out in your eyes? Give us a little something.
Well, kind of going up and down with the WWE here and there. Uh, I'll probably tune in for maybe an hour, hour and a half of Monday Night Raw, put the rest on record. I don't even watch the rest of it because I already could call what's going to happen. Um, there is one wrestler who's been out of WWE that I'm hoping is going to be coming back soon that kind of caught my eye. And it's one Mr. Angel Garza.
Oh, okay.
And because he reminds me of Eddie Guerrero a lot. And Eddie Guerrero was one of my favorite wrestlers. So Angel Garza, I'm a big fan of. Obviously, The Fiend, as you heard at the end of the award show, the song I was playing. Yeah, but I'm a big fan of The Fiend. But WWE, I'm kind of, even when I watch it, I'm not really paying attention too much to it. But I'll focus enough to where it's like, okay, I know what's going to happen or what's going to go on. But and like I've mentioned in past roundtables, PWG. I've been like on a PWG kick. I've been buying like a yes. Go ahead.
PWG stands for
Pro Wrestling Gorilla. And I've been ordering a couple of their DVDs on Amazon because they're fairly cheap. They're like $10-15 for a show. So I'm like, and they have like a lot of good cards on them. And usually Friday nights are my I'll skip watching SmackDown. I'll plug in either a PWG or I've been getting into like older Ring of Honor stuff. I love the Ring of Honor, the older stuff, like when Colt Cabana was there and like the old Jay Lethal and kind of when he made an appearance a little bit. But like I mentioned earlier too, I saw an incredible 6-man tag team match from PWG from one of their older ones, which had like I think it was ACH, Cedric Alexander, Chuck Taylor, I think Fish, like Bobby Fish was a part of it. Rich Swann I think was part of it, and it was just AR Fox was one of the wrestlers, and it was just like high flying action, like it kept going and going and going, and I loved that 6-man tag match, and it was on the DVD I watched last Friday. This Friday, main event, Walter versus Jeff Cobb for the PWG heavyweight title, which it's going to be probably one of the most epic matches. I saw Walter versus it was Keith Lee versus Jeff Cobb. I witnessed that match a while ago on one of my DVDs, and I'll tell you that was a hard hitting match. But I love that. I watched some of the older New Japan stuff that I have. I have some of the older New Japan on DVD. And then like I like the IWA stuff when they had like the death match, the King of the Death Match stuff. I've been a big fan of that, and like I said earlier in the beginning, like Necro Butcher, I have his the Choose Death thing where he has the interview and then like a bunch of his old matches, and I saw one that I really liked, which was it was Necro versus Madman Pondo, and it was a light tube match. It had the light tubes all around the ring, and it had like these setups. And at the end of the match, they did this like crazy, insane spot where it was 2 ladders, and he had placed like a bunch of the light tubes in between, like making like a light tube table in between the ladders. And he did this like suplex and everything. And Necro Butcher went through, and Madman Pondo won the match. And then he gets up, and you see on his arm like this big like chunk of skin like out of his like arm, and it's like hanging, and you see like this big hole, and like you see Madman Pondo like freaking out. He's like shaking, he's going like that. He's like, get an ambulance, and like they're pouring water on it and like making sure it's like any debris out of it, and it was like a nasty gash, and like usually stuff like that doesn't bother me, but it was just like just to see that I couldn't really stare at the screen that long. I had to kind of like turn away, and then I had to do like a 12 take on it. But like I've always been a big fan of that, stuff and like the hardcore stuff, and I always liked the brawlers. Always ever since I was little, like a Stan Hansen. Stan Hansen's like my number one favorite. You probably heard me talk about him a lot in past roundtables, but him, Vader, who I got the honor of meeting twice, and I had like both times I got like about a half an hour conversation with him just about his time in wrestling and stuff. So he was really cool. And I like the bigger guys too, like Yokozuna, who's awesome. One of my favorite. He's in my top 10 favorites. Mabel. So I know you said promotions, but I kind of went left field with that and talked about my favorite wrestlers too. But
No, that's quite all right. So you seem, because there's I mean, it's not like people don't like all spectrums of how what wrestling has become. But the question usually presented is, are you more of a mat wrestler? You seem to be more of a mat wrestler guy than more of the high flying acrobatic stuff that it's kind of turned into. Is that correct to say?
I kind of like. I mean, I like as I call it. My term for that is flippy dippy. I like
Okay.
I like to use, but like I mean, like obviously, I'm wearing one of the flippy dippy, the Jushin Thunder Liger shirt. Like I mean, I like. For me, I do like that kind of style. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of like the cruiserweights, but I mean, I don't mind watching them, for a change once in a while. Like, I'm a big Psychosis fan. Like, Psychosis is my favorite one. Ultimo Dragon,
Mhm.
um, obviously Liger and Zamorian shirt. Who actually, a little side bit, I got to meet Jushin Thunder Liger when they had, I think it was like WrestleMania 29 when they had it in New York, New Jersey. I had the privilege to go to WrestleMania with one of my friends, and he was at a wrestling show, one of the Shimmer shows, and I didn't have the ticket, so I walked around the WrestleCon. I had that thing, and I got to meet Jushin Thunder Liger. I know this is another side note where who I got to meet. I got to see. It was like one of his last appearances. I got to meet Bobby the Brain Heenan, and I'll tell you, it kind of brought a tear to my eye to see him when I saw him, and I gone up to him and I looked him square in the face, and like this was like one of my favorite moments for like meeting a wrestler. I looked him square in the face and I said to him, "Bobby, we love you. You are one of the greatest managers out there." And I told him, I said, "Try to pull through this and do your best." And the look on his face just crushed me. He got up and he had a tear in his eye, and he came up to me and he went and he gave me like the biggest hug anybody like in wrestling gave me. And it's just, and like his voice wasn't that good, like it was kind of low, but he looked at me and he says, "Thank you, I love you for saying that." He says, "I love you," and he says, "I will never forget this." And yeah, I can see you're it's kind of getting you a little bit teary eyed too. And it's just that moment made me realize, I was like, wow, these wrestlers are not in it for, it seemed like some of these wrestlers are not in it for the money. It's just the fact that I went up to him, said what I had to say, and it just clicked, and he got emotional. And I'll say I'm not one of the emotional guys, but I did too. And it was just a fantastic moment between me and Bobby the Brain Heenan. And unfortunately, I think it was like a year or two later, he passed away. And I'll say, up there with Owen Hart, that was probably the hardest death I had to see in wrestling, because I had that moment with him, and it was just, it crushed me. And I it brought a tear to my eye just to see that he passed away. And you don't get that a lot with if you meet a wrestler and stuff. Not many wrestlers are like that. Like, I met Jake the Snake Roberts there too, and I told him I traveled all the way from Massachusetts to New Jersey to meet him. I said, because he was fantastic, and the person running the booth for him said, "Give him his money back. I'm going to give him a free autograph and sign a bunch of free stuff for him, because he came a few hours away just to meet me."
Wow.
And on top of that, they had like a food stand there. He bought me lunch, so me and him sat down and we ate lunch for about 20 minutes, and just he talked to me about his career and how he got started in wrestling. And I'm just sitting here like, out of everybody that's there, he chose me to sit down with and talk to.
That's
And
awesome.
that I'll never forget. So that's just a little tidbit story that I kind of wanted to share.
Those are some fine stories, but that's what I'm talking about, and that's why I love talking to the talent and talking to fans on the table and stuff, because it's all about, and many people say leave the memories alone. If we don't go to these shows and take something from them, something is missing. So like you're describing these stories, these intimate times with people that you've seen growing up, and now you're actually making like a genuine human felt contact with them. It's so much different. And you leave with those memories that you will never forget. And that's what I've always said. Wrestling gives us some of the greatest memories ever. If you're a wrestling fan and you go to these shows, they leave you with such fantastic memories. And that's why I love bringing my dad with me, because, dude, we just nonstop laughing. I mean, come on, man. It's all about having a good time, getting the F away from all of the dumb shit. And wrestling does that for us. And that's why we go. So hearing those stories, I love all of them. And I thank you for sharing those with us. I appreciate it.
And then, like, I've shared the story about me getting into wrestling too. Like, I was like, if you don't mind me, I'll tell you real quick. This, wait a minute.
No,
don't say it. No.
No, preferably with the light off. That would be fantastic.
Maybe it'll go off again. But yeah, so like, I'll do the story real quick. I was about 7 years old, and here I am, just a little kid, and we had gone. Me and my parents went to go grab some dinner, and before we went to go out, I was weirdly enough watching Nightmare on Elm Street. 7-year-old kid watching a horror movie like that. Weird. So we left, and we went down the street to our pizzeria and got some pizza. And come back, and I get in the house. I'm like, "What's that noise? I hear talking." And I figured maybe, we were having like a paranormal thing, and like we were having my great grandfather visit or something. So I was like looking around, and we went in my den. My TV was on, so me and my dad walked into the den, and it was a commercial about WCW Saturday Night. I was like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh, this is cool." And my dad was about to say, "Okay, well, I'll turn it off if you're not gonna watch this." I said, "No." And I'm like, I'm yelling at him, like, "Keep the TV on. I like this stuff," not knowing what it was because I've never seen wrestling in my life. So I'm sitting there watching it, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he came out, and he was facing some jobber. It was on WCW Saturday Night, and usually that's how they do it. Big names facing jobbers. So he was facing this jobber. I'm watching this guy. I'm like, okay, here's a guy that represents America and waves the flag and everything and has that crazy ho like catchphrase. I'm like, okay, this guy's cool. I said, I think I could get into it. So I'm watching him, and he's like brawling with the guy and stuff. I'm like, oh, I like this. And then they said about, oh, catch us on Monday night for Monday Nitro. I'm like, oh, Monday? I'm like, I think I could squeeze an hour or two in before I have to go to bed for school. So I started watching WCW Nitro, and that was more when they had the Monday Night Wars. I was more of a WCW guy then. And then they said, oh, catch us June for our June pay-per-view. I'm like, they have pay-per-views? I'm like, what the heck is that? So I said to my mom, I'm like, Mom, what's a pay-per-view? I said, can you look on the thing and see how much it costs? And back then it was like, I think the WCW pay-per-views were maybe $15 maybe. So I'm like, Mom, can you buy me that for $15 and I want to watch it? She says, all right, fine. So I watched it. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I was getting into it. And then I watched the Bash of the Beach 1996 when the New World Order formed. And I was watching the 6-man tag, and I saw Hulk Hogan, and I was used to Hulk Hogan. I'm like, oh, Hulk Hogan. I'm like, this is cool. Another guy that represents America. He's going to come out and help Sting and Luger and Macho Man. I was all excited. I was jumping up and down. I'm like, Hulk Hogan. Then he turned on Sting, Luger, and Macho. I'm like, Hulk Hogan. I'm like, this is cool. And then he started trash talking. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then I had a friend in school whose father was in the wrestling. He was giving me videotapes to watch, but his was like back in the day when like they had like Bruno Sammartino and Killer Kowalski, who we all know that's iconic name around this area. And I was watching those. I'm like, okay. Then I started getting into the older stuff, and I'm like, as I got older, I was like, I'm gonna start researching like older stuff too. So I started getting into like the 70s, 60s, back in the day. And like I would get the almanacs that they had, and I would start reading almanacs and reading back in the day where they had like over 1 hour, 2 hour matches and stuff. So I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then I was getting into that, and then getting into the WWE, WCW, ECW. So I started finding stuff like that, and and then they had Impact Wrestling, or TNA Wrestling as it was back in the day, but they had that, and the Ring of Honor, and all the old stuff. So I was like, this is pretty cool. I started like realizing that stuff when I was like maybe 15 or so. So, but I've been into the wrestling for about almost, I want to say like almost 35 years that I've been watching it and getting into it and studying it. And, I get finding these friends that are into it and teaching me and talking to me about stuff. I'm going to do one name drop, which I think you know who I'm going to name drop. One, Mr. Tom Burke. I can't tell you how much he's taught me the stuff that I've already kind of knew, but new stuff that he's taught me. And like when I went to the Rhode Island awards there that they had, the Hall of Fame, when we went 2 years back to back, the stories he had for me and the stories I had for him, and it was just listening to him talk and listening to me talk. It was amazing. I learned a lot of things from him, which I'm sure he learned a lot of things from me, and talking to the wrestlers that were there and listening to their stories. And it's just, I just like that kind of stuff, listening to what they have to say, and, listening about the business and stuff like that, and researching and going back in the day. And, and then, like you said, I like the brawling and stuff of the wrestling and, all these different promotions. And so, yeah.
Out of all of that, what you just spoke of, and there was a lot of going on from promotion to promotion, getting yourself familiar with all of what was going on and some of the history and such. I do want to touch upon one thing before I let you go on this, because you did mention Mr. Tom Burke. Now, for those that don't know who Mr. Tom Burke is, beautiful human, love Mr. Tom Burke. I never knew who the guy was, but I was seeing him at the shows. He's about 75 right now. Little old guy, you see, just hanging out, talking to the guys and the girls. And my dad and myself would always question, who the F is this old timer showing up at all of these shows? Out of nowhere, Mr. Drinkwater, I'm at an NEW show. Or no, not NEW. Oh, what the heck was it? It was in Chicopee. Crap, I can't remember. They're not running. It'll
RPW?
come. No, it was. I seen Cannon Nuka there. It's
is it that like NEWS or something like that?
Yes, NEWS. That's exactly what it is. And it was a pre-show to NEWS. They had everything set up, and there was, workers walking around, and I'm trying to do my thing with my phone, see if anybody wants to do promos. And I get Mr. Burke. He goes, "Hey, Don Kincaid, you want to come over here for a minute?" And I go, "Wait a minute, this dude knows who I am. I've been seeing him at all of these shows. This ought to be fun. Let's see what's good, So I walk over there, and there wasn't really, the crowd really wasn't in there yet. So it was quiet enough for us to just kind of hang out and conversate. And I walk over and I go, "You know me, sir?" And he goes, "You're Don Kincaid." And I go, "I've seen you, but I feel like a jackass. I don't know your name." And he goes, "Tom Burke, a pleasure to meet you." And then I start learning who this guy was. Mikey, I felt like a fucking asshole. Oh my God. I'm like, I walk up to this guy saying to my dad, "Who is this old timer at these shows?" And then blah, blah, blah. And he comes up and I'm like, "You know me? I don't really know you." And it's Mr. Tom Burke. And I know I've said a lot right there, but Mr. Tom Burke is a local historian out of Massachusetts. And I will tell you, historian is an understatement. He has got quite the collection. They call it the Shrine. It's one room in his house, and it's absolutely amazing. He's had some of the most crazy names you would never even think of pass in that place. I've had the privilege, I'm getting all tongue-tied. I've had the privilege of interviewing him 3 times. We were supposed to do another. We haven't connected because of the vid. but we are supposed to reconnect again. And I do want to get back there because I was supposed to sign his book where everybody comes in, and I never signed the damn book, and I want to sign it. But he's such a historian, and what an amazing wrestling fan and knowledgeable historian.
And the little tidbit, my when I signed the book, my name was not too far down from Bret Hart.
Nice. It's perfect name to put out there. Looking at the book is just absolutely phenomenal. Speaking of the fabulous Moolah, are you shitting me?
Exactly.
Like Drinkwater, we're in this room of pure history. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing when you go in there, and it's just really cool. And the guy himself, Tom Burke, absolutely amazing. We'll talk to you for as long as you want to talk to him about wrestling. Let me tell you, really, really cool guy.
I can say, like, on numerous coffee and as he calls it, coffee and chats that we've had. I can't tell you, like, the stories he's had for me, and like every time I've gone to his place, I'll go into the shrine, and I'll spot something new that I didn't realize that he had. I'll be like, oh, you have this mask. Oh, you have this title belt. Oh, this poster, and it's kind of cool. Like right now, I don't know if you've been noticing, he's been doing this like auction on Facebook, and I've won a few of like the old school magazines because I like the old time magazines of like the 70s and some of them the 80s. I've won some of those, and funny tidbit, I actually won. He actually did a shirt, and it was an extra large. He said he never wore it. It was of Buddy Rogers, Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. I'm like, oh hell, I got it. I was like, I've got a bid on this. I'm like, I bid on it and I won the bid, and I'm like, it's just like that, and like the magazines, it's just like it's part of history because of him having it, and it's just taking that and then going to his place, and then he'll talk a little bit about the magazine, and like he'll be like, oh this, and then like the whatever the thing was, he'll talk about it, and he's like, oh, I remember back in like 1965, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that, and he'd bring up things like, I'm like, oh, this is cool, like, listen to his stories, and like every time I go over, he says, oh, you want to borrow a book? Oh, you want to do this? I'm like, oh, okay, and then like we go up to like the Rhode Island, like I said, we would go up to the Hall of Fame in Rhode Island. On the way there, he'd be telling me stories about like back in the day and like how he broke into the business and how he became a fan. I'm like there are times where like I'm just so enthralled about what he's saying that I've like literally almost got into a car accident because I'm just sitting there yeah, I'm like, oh god, and like and Tom's like just sitting there. He's just like he'll have like a chuckle. I'm like, his stories just enthrall me, and like he's like you said, he's just an amazing guy.
I want to kind of touch upon something. Nowadays, it's way easier than it was back then. Like with me and the phone, it's taken some time. It's not something that I set out to do. It's just something that kind of just melded into something. It just kind of happened, to be honest with you. So being a fan, and I talk about crossing that barrier, the guardrail, if you will, from fan to locker room. Back then, that was taboo shit. You don't go into the locker rooms back then because of the kayfabe situation and what wrestlers were doing with wrestling and how it was being brought to the table. Kayfabe is different nowadays. Some still do, some don't. It's kind of been a lost art, if you will, in the modern age of wrestling. But my point being is, can you imagine? And we have on our interviews with Mr. Burke, he talks about that exact scenario because I'm so curious about how the F way back then. And I'm not, and I'm not saying it's like Flintstone type shit, but even when you're in the 60s and you're trying to get into that locker room, that was something that was such a very, very hard task to do as a fan, to be able to cross that line, to be a journalist of sorts, if you will.
Exactly.
So nowadays it's different, but Mr. Burke did it ahead of his time. That's my point, sir. Ahead of his time was Mr. Burke, getting behind the scenes and doing what he was doing with the people he was doing it with. Amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, like some of the friendships that he's, throughout the years he's had, and like he's told me, like, he wants to get one of the Hart brothers to come up, and he's like, he automatically says, "Oh, I want you to meet him." I think it was like Ross Hart or something. He's gonna try to have come up, and I'm like, like with that, and like his friendship with like Killer Kowalski, and like all the like, old timers. Like, I don't know if like Bruno Sammartino, I don't know if he ever met him or how. I'm sure he did, but I don't know how well they gelled. But like I could say, like him and Killer Kowalski were like, to me, it was like they were brothers, kind of like, because he always talked about him and stuff. And he's got like all these like good friendships with all these like wrestlers, and to bring them in. I saw like a picture with him and William Regal.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. Ah.
And Kevin Sullivan, he brought up Kevin Sullivan, which I don't know if really we should bring him up, but and
I want to touch on Mr. Regal, because Regal comes over and they chit chat, they hang out, and now Regal, on the other hand, is a historian himself, very avid wrestling historian. He's more of the British end, not that he doesn't know the American end of it, but he has a very fluid historian end on the British end of wrestling. And I'm telling you, these two get together. Could you ever imagine the effing stories that they go back and forth? I'd like to just stick a fucking a spy cam in the corner or something, and
like
just
fly on the wall.
Yeah, just even an hour's worth of footage would be fine. That's got to be some cool stuff to just. I don't know, man. It's just crazy, the history of Mr. Burke and the talent that we know that have come and gone. Might I add, a lot of them that he had special relationships with. Again, he's 75 years old. There's a lot of them that aren't even around anymore.
Exactly, like a lot of like Killer Kowalski, Fabulous Moolah, probably Mae Young. I would say, he was a true ladies' man, as I like to joke around with him once in a while, saying. But he's, I can't tell you, all the stories that I've heard from him, and like we were at on our way back last year from the Hall of Fame. We one of the bushwhackers was in the same rest area as we were. We were talking to him for a little bit. So it's just, and the stories they had, I'm like just sitting there listening to them talk and stuff. And it's just, and that's where he told me how he got into the wrestling business. And it's just, he said it was just like a fluke. And it was just to hear his stories is just, like you said, even just an hour's worth.
Mm-hmm.
You learn so much from the little time that you're with them, that it's like you can have that knowledge and it stays with you probably until the day you die. And it's just, that's why I cherish my friendship with him and amongst all my other friends that are in wrestling. It's just those moments where you have, and you can just talk to them and listen to their stories and just have fun talking to them about wrestling, like tonight, like me and you. We're talking about wrestling and having a good time and enjoying it. And it's just, to me, I like that. I like talking to my friends and, talking about the wrestling and watching the wrestling, and it's our passion, I should say, for everybody.
It definitely is. If you're a fan, you're a fan. You have to be in, though. People that are kind of general fans, a lot of them don't get it, if you will. To I guess put it, simply. But the wrestling fans that are in it for I guess you want to say the long haul, very passionate. And if you see nowadays, again, we've talked the evolution of not only wrestling but the wrestling fan itself. They think they all know what's going on behind the doors, behind the curtains, behind the guardrails, if you will. They all have They're all smarter than the wrestlers. They're all smarter than the business and all of this. I follow a lot of pages. I'm not a guy who comments on pages. I'm a guy, and I don't even if you know if you want to call it trolling. I'll poke on a page. I'll see something, but I'll see that there's 62 comments. So I'll kind of roll through and see what they are. A lot of negativity out there. Don't dig it. I don't add to it. I just kind of move along. I've never been that guy to be like, oh well, blah 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 blah. If they would have blah blah blah, they could have blah blah blah. Or like uh, the whole body shaming is a big thing nowadays. They see a bigger girl, they start digging in, stuff like that. I don't get it. Just love wrestling. Why can't you just watch wrestling, love wrestling? I know we don't like everything we see. We know that the WWE can do more. USA is climbing up their asshole as we speak right now because of their ratings. We get it, but I just don't understand why it has to always be this day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out thing with the fans. It's just constant pounding and pounding on the products. I'll never get that part of modern day wrestling fan. Me personally, a lot of people like to give their opinions. And I'm not saying that I don't, but I just don't on those topics like that. I mean, it's fucking wrestling, man. Let's just live in some fun, baby.
Exactly. I agree. And like, there are times where like I'll be like, if it's like a slow day at my job, I'll go through my head and like I like to do like fun scenarios and saying, okay, for like the WWE, like for Drew McIntyre, like, okay, he's gonna be feuding with this person for these next 3 pay-per-views, then this person could come in and interfere or something like that. Or like with Bobby Lashley, I could be like, okay, Bobby Lashley's the US champion. Maybe bring in start like a mini feud with like him, Jeff Hardy, and Matt Riddle, and like do something like that. But it's just I like having fun like with stuff like that, and like like I used to do fantasy wrestling with one of my friends. I mean, I still do it a little bit here and there myself, but we used to have like these amazing like storylines and like bring in like older wrestlers and use them and stuff, and it's just it was fun, and I thought it was a hell of a lot better than some of the product that they had, with WWE.
And that, and like I said earlier, just to reiterate quickly, you can watch it and not be happy with it. And I know we don't like everything we see on a Monday night or a Friday night or whatever the product you're watching. And we all want to be fantasy bookers. We all say they should do this and they should do that. And maybe sometimes that is correct. But we've never been in that seat. We've never known the pressures of what it takes to keep that mainstream commercial juggernaut alive. So yeah, we all have ideas and stuff. And I'm not saying that Vince is on the money because again, USA is climbing up their asses like none other right now. So they're in a tough spot. And as of today, USA put out a statement. They want to see more adult-orientated stuff. They're sick of the WWE trying to continue this PG-13 thing because it's seemingly not working. And as of 2 days ago, my friend, it is the 2-year anniversary of when the McMahons and Triple H got in that effing ring and said these words: "We are going to give you, the fans, what you want." It's been 2 years and their ratings have continually dropped. Now, I'm not bitching, I'm not moaning, I'm not groaning. I'm just putting shit in perspective right now.
Right.
So my point being to this, I hope WWE turns things around because I don't want to see WWE disappear off of a major network because I want to see WWE myself personally. I want to see that juggernaut that we've grown to love over the years. Some do hate it to the point to where they don't want to watch it no more. There are so many wrestlers, indie and professional, that don't even watch WWE anymore because of what they give us as a product. But I didn't mean to go on a tangent about WWE. I was just trying to put a perspective on why can't we just enjoy wrestling, dislike what we dislike, but enjoy what we enjoy as part of the program is pretty much my point.
No, and I totally agree with that. I will definitely second that.
Well, Mr. Drinkwater, we've been running an hour and 19 minutes. I thought this was going to run at a max of 7 minutes or so. It seemed to run quite enjoyable over this course of an hour and 20 minutes. We've talked so many topics.
Sourpuss. That's the name. Sourpuss.
Is
Sourpuss McGee. That was the name
sour,
that you. I knew it was going to come to me.
Yes, Sourpuss McGee. We talked so many topics, and I am so glad we touched upon Mr. Burke, because I know between the two of us, we've had a lot of enough run-ins to really appreciate Mr. Burke. Mr. Drinkwater, tonight was absolutely amazing. I'm glad the light was turned off for those few times it did. That gave us a little extra seconds of not seeing the puss. But with all of that said, we dig in on each other a lot on the Fan Roundtable. We have a lot of fun. He is the heel of the table. And I'm telling you, we just love to dig, have a little bit of fun. And if you notice today, it was a little bit different than our normal back and forth. But what we call that, sir, is wrestling. So I really do appreciate your time, your stories. We really got to see you get super kicked in the face somehow. I'm going to reach out to Dan the Man. I don't know Lucas Sharp personally, but I will reach out, see if he's got any footage kicking around. We'll try to find that and bring to the table. Mr. Drinkwater, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it tonight.
It was a very, very awesome time, and I really appreciate you having me on. And we will try to get Dan the Man to see if we can have him recreate that. And even if we just do it and put it on the round table, that'd be pretty fantastic. But hey, I enjoyed the time talking to you and talking wrestling.
Even if we have to meet at TOS or something and just have them drop you right in the parking lot, I'm down with that.
I'm down.
See, he's down. Mr. Man, we got to make this happen. This was Stir the Pot with Don Kincaid. And I think this is like my fourth time saying this in one interview. It's kind of weird. You'll have to catch the intro earlier if you didn't. This was Stir the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Drinkwater / Dishwater / Sourpuss McGee.